Hi YouTube, Tyler from All Hell Breaks Loops here, and this week marks the conclusion of many hours of research on drumming and awesomeness. Apparently the amount of drumming in a song is directly correlated to the amount of awesomeness. Unfortunately, I don't play the drums, so I've had to learn to program them to work around that. Until the state of California makes it legal for me to lock a drummer in a room with a camera, no food, no water, no bathroom breaks, following my tyrannical orders like some sort of loyalist faction, I'm left with MIDI and samples. As always, make sure you subscribe for my weekly videos, and if you have any comments or suggestions for future video topics, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Thanks, and I hope you learned something.
So here we have our empty Cubase project. What we're going to be doing is putting in a VST instrument of Superior Drummer 2 in, and I'm just going to show you my basic workflow for getting, loops and using MIDI libraries and things like that. First step is we're going to go over to Devices and then VST Instruments, or you could use the shortcut F11, function 11. Go over to Toontrack and Superior Drummer. This is going to load up our instance of Superior Drummer. We are going to want a mini track assigned to it, and here we go. And just by default, this is going to be the New York Avatar kit, and this is with Superior 2. And so here we have Metal Foundry, and this is just the default kit. As you can see right here, it's loading up. It's all loaded, and we can hear the beautiful sounds of the default Metal Foundry kit. And so we have some different presets over here. We're going to be using the MIDI recording sessions and then go to Dirk Verbeuren because we're going to be using some of Dirk's MIDI in the form of the library of the Extreme MIDI samples. So just click yes to all this, and we have 812 megabytes loaded. It's always a little bit higher. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. We'll test it out. Doesn't that sound great? Nice, kind of, punchy, not punchy. Kicks that will cut through a bunch of guttural guitars and things like that. Sounds great. Let me touch on something in the settings ever so briefly. Don't ever mess with these where you kind of set your sample libraries. That could be a possible place where you get hung up on the sounds and things like that. If you do mess it up, well, you can see here, mine is in installation default library, application support, Superior Drummer 2.0, and then SL Metal Foundry. And so you really don't want to mess with those because those have all sorts of unforeseen consequences. And then the other thing that you want to keep in mind is, see down here, we have 815 megabytes loaded of drum samples. Say if we cleared that, over here, the memory usage limit, I know I set this to 1200 because I had some larger kits I was trying to play with. If, say, this was set to something lower like 600, then we tried to go load here, it loads, and then it's going to give us this problem. And so this says that we put the ceiling at 600, but it has more than 600 for this combination, and so it's going to cause us some problems. It's going to leave out the overheads, it's going to give us only the bottom snare mic and other wacky things like that. So we want to make sure that as long as our system can work with it, we have this set so that it is bigger than what's down here. And after we change that, this changed down here. So we're all set. Now let's go back to Grooves, and this is where it's going to give us all of our basic features from Easy Player. So these are all the MIDI kind of libraries that I've accumulated. And what we're going to be using is Library of the Extreme. We click on that, and we're going to have some blasted because we're keeping it metal. And we're going to go into straight 4/4 blasts, and here is our selection. You can see right here, 220, that's the suggested tempo that these different blasts are taking out. So we're going to go ahead and change that. So go down to tempo, set it to 200, and there we go. We can get rid of that now that we know we're at 200. And then over here, hats open, we want variation 1. We're going to play it. And doesn't that sound blasty? If for some reason we wanted halftime blast beats, which don't sound very blasty at all, we could do that. Or if we want some kind of robot playing blast beat, we could do this, which is like essentially at 400 BPM. So we've decided that beat's cool. We're going to go ahead and now take it. And so now we have this MIDI track over here. Put in variation 1, put in variation 2. Oh, thank you, variation 1. Thank you. So in the meantime, we've put in our 4 variations, and now we want to kind of identify the end of our 16-bar phrase. Well, you can tell if you look at it, it goes out to 16. We'll go ahead and change that right here. We now have a 16-bar phrase. We're going to put in a fill. So we go over to the fill section. Straight fills, of course. Fills, standalone. Variation 1. Let's check it out. Sounds killer. Now we're going to drop that in. So now what we have is actually 18 bars of drums. That's going to fit kind of weird if we're, you know, kind of hovering around a 4-bar phrasing or something like that. So we're going to peel that back 2 bars so that we can put the fill in and it still comes out to 16. So it doesn't give us weird kind of phrases and things like that. And now to here, everything back to back. All right, so there we go. So if we were looking for someone actually playing blast beats, we have something that sounds like that. If we were looking for a robot to play blast beats, we don't, because Dirk is a man, not a machine. What if we, instead of wanting to use this MIDI that we have here, want to use something, you know, external? Either we have a V-drum kit, or in my case, an MPC. And what we're going to do is make sure on the MIDI inputs, this is selected. If it comes like this, we're not going to hear anything going into it. We're just going to do all to make sure that regardless of the MIDI channel that we're using, we're going to hear it, you know, playing the drums. So we're hearing all the MIDI inputs, and over here, and this is set to, it's actually MIDI channel 1, but that should work fine. Next thing we're going to do is in Cubase, we're going to make sure that it's armed to record. This would be, you know, to activate it, but it's armed over here. And then what we're also going to do is click right here. So we do have the click on, and then we have a pre-count. So we're going to 4 counts, and we're going to start playing. And as you can see over at the MPC, when we push the buttons, we can hear those. So let's go ahead. So that was my quite awkward, latency-ridden playing, but we can see back here, we've got our blast beats. And if we needed a really bad disco beat, we would have it. So there's a bunch of Dirk playing, and here's a bunch of me playing. That is why I use MIDI libraries. Anyways, I hope that wrapped things up. If you've got, you know, a V-drum kit, just plug the MIDI into your interface. In my example, I'm actually using a USB cable coming out of the MPD that I have. But if you have a user interface with MIDI in, go to plug that in and make sure that's routed over here. Otherwise, if it does have a USB out, that's even easier. And then you just route that over to the input. Make sure it's the input right here. If I had MIDI going into my Fire Studio, it'd be over there. We're actually using the Akai MPD bootloader, but we selected all MIDI inputs, and so that would take care of us there. I hope that answers any questions that you might have about how to get Superior working with your setup. As always, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask me, and you can check out one of the many videos I've used Superior to make drums for over here. So thanks so much, and I hope you subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye. I guess the change in my pocket wasn't enough.